everybody. Welcome to Meddkit's Provider Spotlight, where every week we are talking to the most amazing private practices from all over the United States. Every week we have someone new, a new topic, a new specialty, and the most important thing is that we get all new perspectives here and things that you probably didn't know before. So we have a really awesome special guest today. I am so excited to introduce you to Danielle Tarjoman, co-owner of Mold Men and also AllVitae Health and Chiropractic in Lutz, Florida. So welcome, Danielle. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm
We
so
are
happy to be here.
Same here. We are so excited to dive in with you. I know we have a lot to talk about, but something that I think that everyone is kind of dying to know here is, a little bit of your story, your background. I feel like everyone has such a unique journey and also a good why to, opening up your practice and maybe just hearing about the people and the community that you serve.
Yeah, absolutely. Personally, I was born and raised in Alaska. A lot of people think that's pretty cool, so I like to lead with that. But I ended up finding my official home as an adult in California, and I met my husband, who is the chiropractor at AllVitae Health and Chiropractic. And we decided to start a family there. We had a private practice, but we were kind of ready for some change and we decided to move to Florida and literally sell our practice there and start from scratch here about 4 years ago. It was probably one of the hardest things we've ever done, but it was definitely worth it. Yeah, moving a family across country and starting from scratch. But um, our community has been amazing, very welcoming. I feel like chiropractic here is a little bit newer and people don't fully understand it. So the majority of new patients that come in our door most likely have never had a chiropractic treatment before, which is kind of interesting. I know. And we built our business solely through face-to-face networking. But then at some point last year, I met a doctor who's very well known in the mold space. He's been in the mold industry for 35 years. And a little bit about me, I actually have all my prereqs for nursing school. And then COVID hit, and I decided, I don't know if nursing school is what I want to do. I don't know if I want to be a nurse, but I love helping people, and I wanted to be able to do something alongside my husband
Sure.
that was synergistic. So I went to school as a health coach. I went to school for functional nutrition, for muscle testing, nutrition response testing. And then I also got trained by that doctor in the mold space last year. Even though I knew a lot about mold, he just opened my eyes even more. I was just like, wow, my mind was blown. So we saw this opportunity and we presented it to him and said, look, we're willing to start a brand new business if we can somehow work together. And he said, absolutely. So that was kind of how Mold Men became. And it's literally just been amazing. It's been a blessing to not only us because we get to fulfill that passion to help people in another way, but also all these people that we're helping heal and get better, like the stories that we hear. I mean, it's so satisfying to be doing what we do. And
I can't believe it.
yeah,
I think there's a lot of, a lot of what you said, I think rings true. A lot of people
right.
haven't maybe dived into chiropractic, but then also I feel like mold, I feel like has become this new thing for people. They're just starting to kind of figure out what this all is and functional.
Scratching the surface. It's
Yeah.
like mold? What?
Yeah. Like
Mold is everywhere. That's what I would say.
yeah, mold is everywhere. And so, I'd love to dive into more of this, functional medicine side of what you do, because I think, people are now hearing about, mold, functional medicine, but really don't understand the full meaning and what this all is. So maybe you can tell us a little bit of, the types of testing that you do to kind of, uncover the hidden toxins in the body, and maybe also why don't you think maybe more people are aware of this? And, what can we do to maybe start talking about it more? Because it's obviously a huge issue that I think is just starting to get uncovered, you know?
Right. Yes, absolutely. So With my background in functional nutrition, I believe that every person is unique. You cannot put the same two people on the same protocol and expect the same result. So, functional pretty much takes a person and figures out what's considered like the root cause. So there's symptoms, right? Symptoms typically are a downstream effect of what's happening upstream. So if
Yeah.
you fix what's upstream, then everything else downstream kind of falls into place. So in this case, mold is it's just crazy how many different systems in the body that it attacks and how many symptoms it presents itself. It's a multi-system, multi-symptom type diagnosis, if you will. But so the way that I go about figuring out what's going on is first ask symptoms. Like what are your symptoms? And I
Yeah.
know this is going to be one of the questions, but I guess I could just touch on it now. You know, symptoms could be anywhere from fatigue, headaches, brain fog, anxiety, depression, respiratory issues, which a lot of people, that's what it's known for is, oh, it's mold, it causes breathing issues. Sinus infections. A lot of people go to these doctors' offices and get like constant overuse of antibiotics
Yeah.
when what if it's not bacteria? What if it's a fungal based? So you're literally just putting all these antibiotics in your system for no reason. It's not going to help. So, some other things that mold is connected to, some diagnoses are Parkinson's, MS, ALS, autism. Actually, it's really remarkable. And these are all studies. This isn't just stuff I say. This is stuff that Dr. Campbell, he has actually written over 100 scientific studies. You can find them on PubMed, and it's pretty crazy how much the mold can affect the body. You can get the mold in the body by inhalation and by touch. So when you breathe it in, not only is it going into your lungs, but then you have what's called an olfactory bulb, which is right behind your sinus cavity. It's like a conveyor belt that goes directly to the brain. And the very first place that mold likes to attack and mycotoxins like to attack is your central nervous system. So that's where the fatigue, the headaches, the brain fog, the depression, that kind of stuff stems from.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And the way we test so once we figure out the symptoms, we want to see, okay, is it multi-system? Is it multi symptoms that just don't make sense? They're kind of unexplained symptoms, like why do I have this? They've already gone to their conventional doctor. Their labs are normal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then they come to me. And with my background, obviously, I'm very holistic minded, very functionally minded. I like to look at the person in a holistic way, making sure that we're focusing on the environment, that we're focusing on what they're putting in their body, their lifestyle, their supplements, things that we could be helping them fine tune, right? So we do that, but the testing itself can come in a couple different ways. So we have the muscle testing, the nutrition response testing, which is more the natural, holistic, functional way. And then we have an actual lab that we could utilize called My Myco Lab. And it's a blood serum test, and you send it in. And what it tests is it actually tests mycotoxin antibodies, which indicates current exposure or colonization in the body because the mycotoxins are actually the toxin that comes from the mold. Either way, you don't want mycotoxin antibodies because that means you have mycotoxins in your body, and that's what's causing these symptoms and all this harm to your whole body.
It's so interesting. All the different things that one, it's amazing the way technology has advanced and you can go through all this testing and, really figure out what's going on and getting to the bottom causes of it. But it seems like this is if people actually maybe had dived in,
Right.
do you find this is pretty common, that people,
Very.
yeah.
Sometimes I wonder, like, this is just an epiphany I had, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. I was like, I wonder how many people are out there that are on anti-anxiety or anti-depression medication when it's mold.
Yeah.
Treat the mold and you don't have the anxiety and the depression,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
just like, and we're so medicated as a society. It just, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it was really helpful to hear what some of those symptoms were and what people should be looking out for.
Yeah.
because I think a lot of us are probably sitting and wondering here, well, have I been on a lot of antibiotics within the past year? Have I had chronic, sinus infections and things like that? And I think that's a lot of people, or people just say it's allergies or something.
Right. Yeah. And those are completely two different immune responses. For kids, it actually presents itself as behavioral issues and learning disabilities or
Interesting.
challenges. Yeah. And schools, by the way, speaking of children, are one of the worst places for water damage buildings.
Wow.
Yeah. It's very sad. Schools and hospitals.
It's ironic in a way, isn't it?
It's so ironic.
Yeah, it's a little ironic, but something that I'd love, now that we kind of know what to look out for, know
Mhm.
where our places are, what makes your approach different, but then also I'd love to know about some of like your detox protocols or treatments, now that we know what we're looking out for, what are some of the signs, what does support look like when you're supporting a client through this?
Yeah, so if I suspect mold, obviously I'm going to do muscle testing, but I really do like to lead with the lab because if depending on which route they go, some
Yeah.
people do want to take the allopathic route and possibly get on medication, which is fine. It's short term, but we need to have that proof. We need to show that they have this, in their body, and that when they go on the medication after 6 months, then the numbers are going down. So it's trackable, right? It's
Yeah.
tangible. We can see it. Some people will come in and they're like, no, I don't want to do any medication. So in that case, I do the muscle testing. And we figure out what kind of detox supplements they could be on that are specific to them and personalized to them. So their body can detox from the mold and mycotoxins. And other things might even come up. It might be mold, but it could be parasites, it could be heavy metals,
Sure.
chemicals, bacteria, viruses. I mean, there's so many things. We live in such a toxic world.
Mhm.
So when I do the muscle testing, the body pretty much communicates with me and tells me what the body wants to work on first, whether it's an organ or it's a trigger or a cause that needs to be detoxed. So two different ways we can approach it, and I like to meet my clients where they are, and I don't like forcing them any which way. Some people will start doing it naturally, right? And they actually make great progress with mold. But
Yeah.
what I've noticed with mold is they tend to only get about 75 to 80% better naturally.
Yeah.
And we still at the end have to bring in the medication to get in and get the deep stuff,
Yeah.
So,
That
but yeah,
makes
yeah,
That totally makes sense. Yeah, it's very interesting to hear you talk about it, and it is nice to lead with the science first and seeing
yes,
what's okay, where are we at,
right,
what's really going on. So it's great to be able to look at that and treat someone accordingly, and
yep,
then have them do well and do well naturally most of the way there, and just clean
right,
up the last couple of things with some medication. But um, you know, and this is super informational, and I think kind of getting into the vein of that, I think every specialty, often deals with, especially when things aren't quite understood, or maybe
mhm,
they're hearing things for the first time, is that I think every specialty is met with some misconceptions. And I think, you hear about these old wives' tales, and they're like, you hear your grandmother say, oh, like, try this. This is what we did as a kid, and, all these things. But, and then you look up things online, and that's a whole,
oh,
other
Dr.
whole,
Google,
yeah,
yeah.
Dr. Google. That can be a little scary sometimes. So, is there anything here today that maybe you would just like to set the record straight on that? Man, I hear this all the
Yes.
time, and it's going to be further from the truth, and this is what this actually is.
Yeah. So I think this was the part that I was kind of hung up on the most. I was talking to you about like writing notes down. I'm like, gosh, I
Yep.
don't know which one to choose because there's so many. Oh my gosh. And I have my notes. So I guess, and I'll make it brief, but I guess the number one for me recently is so my background, as I said, is I'm a functional nutrition. I do functional nutrition and muscle testing. So I consider myself a functional and holistic health practitioner with the
Sure.
training that I've done. I also do what's called functional blood chemistry analysis. So I've had probably in the last 6 months, maybe two or three people that pretty much discredit me because I am not a doctor,
Mm.
which really is frustrating because I have put in so much time and effort and I have so many clinical hours working with clients. And I feel like I get better results than most doctors. So I feel like a big misconception out there is you don't have to work with a doctor to get better. And in a lot of cases, these doctors do want to put you on medication, which just puts a band-aid over the actual issue. It's, symptom control. It's not figuring out what the root cause is. And when was the last time a doctor, I mean, there's good ones out there. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I've met some incredible ones, but the majority of them, they're not going to ask you about your diet. They're not going to ask you about what's going on at home. They're not going to ask about your sleep. None of these. All they do is hear what the problem is. And this kind of goes into my other thing is you don't even know the amount of gaslighting I hear from my clients, from medical professionals.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's all in your head. It's just anxiety. You are within normal ranges in your blood work. Yeah, you have these symptoms, but I can't give you a diagnosis because you don't fit into this box. So I guess I kind of touched on all three right there, but it's just it's frustrating. But at the same time, I came to the realization the people that respect or appreciate me and know my value and know my worth are the ones that gonna work with me, and that's great.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just not there yet. They're not that there's so many people out there think that they have to go to the doctor. And I feel like that's a very old mindset. There's so much more than just getting a prescription, you
Yep.
know?
I mean, if you could feel better at any point in time,
Yeah.
would you care who you saw if your problem got resolved?
Yes.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean? It's
Yeah.
the same thing.
Absolutely. I just think it's a very old mindset,
Yeah.
People are becoming more and more, open to this way of care. And don't get me wrong, I work right now with three doctors that are able to get the prescription, if they do decide to go down that
Yep.
route. But that's just 25% of the program. The other
Yep.
75% is what I work on. And if you don't do it, you're not going to heal.
Yep.
It's just, yeah. So that's,
It's a really good point that you bring up,
yeah.
and I think as, I kind of we talked about, Dr. Google kind of go both ways. It's nice to see that people are invested in their health, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
they're researching, they're wanting to know,
Mhm.
and that's also how they're finding different providers, so people like you, finding them online, looking at reviews and other things, and but it's important to be investigative about your health.
Yeah,
And so, that's exactly what you're providing to those people. You are investigating their health. You're asking them the questions. You're listening to them. You're testing them. You're seeing what is actually going on underneath the hood.
yeah.
And you don't have to have an MD behind the letters behind your name in order to
To do
investigate
some
it.
discovery work. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like nowadays with the way everything is, you have to be your own advocate or find someone that could be your advocate. Your doctor's not going to be your advocate. You
Yeah.
Most doctors. There's still really good doctors out there, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's hard.
It's just hard to find.
I think everyone has had, the bad banana that ruins the bunch. I think
Yes,
that's ultimately what we
absolutely.
deal with. Like there's
Yes.
hosts of really great people out there, and then you come across people and you're like, well, that one wasn't so great. And
No.
and it stinks. But I think obviously solving US medical healthcare is
Issue.
a whole other provider
Oh,
spotlight between us, Danielle.
yes. Oh my goodness. Tell me about it.
We could go on about that for a long time,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
this is truly amazing. I think all the information that you have provided to everyone that's listening here is really valuable in terms of, I think a lot of people don't understand what these things can look like in real life and how they transpire, how they affect them. And, I think now people might be a little bit even more investigative about their health, knowing what they know now. And
Yeah.
so with that in mind, would love to hear from you where people can reach out, find more information about you guys, and learn a little bit more.
Yeah. So the best place to go would just be our website, www.moldmend.com, Moldmend. I also do 30-minute complimentary consultations. So if you have any questions or you suspect that you have symptoms for mold illness, mold toxicity, I will do a 30-minute consultation with you to kind of help direct you, or maybe it isn't mold, it could be other things. And then I also did share with you, Rachel, the free ebook on mycotoxins. So that is also on my website. But I have a free ebook that you could download, and it just gives you information on mold and mycotoxins and their effects on the body, the symptoms, that kind of stuff. It's very informative.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Danielle. This was amazing, and
Thank
we
you.
hope to have you on again very soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.